Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about the topic of energy magic and a particular book that was written in recent years about the topic. So I'm going to talk about this particular book about energy magic. It's called Energy Magic of the Vampyre by Webb, and the subtitle is Secret Techniques for Personal Power and Manifestation. So here is the book, and I really like this book. I'm quite impressed with this book. This book really is about energy magic or psychic vampirism. This book is not about blood magic of any kind, and there is a warning near the front page of the book to state categorically that this type of magic has got nothing to do with blood magic of any kind. So that's why I just mentioned the term psychic vampirism. Now I've mentioned that because that is part of the information that's in the book. It's mainly about energy magic, but it also looks at the type of psychic vampirism that people are probably aware of. And I really like this book because I think Webb is one of the top magic authors and practitioners of contemporary magic around today. This is contemporary magic, and it's innovative. And what I like about Webb, I love his style of writing, I love his approach, and I also love the fact that he's not regurgitating old ideas that have been around since the time of the Golden Dawn, for example. I know that there are authors who are considered contemporary authors or new authors these days, but they're really just regurgitating and presenting mainly the ideas of the Golden Dawn just in contemporary language. So I'm not interested in that because I studied and worked with Golden Dawn magic, the whole approach for so many years. I really want something new. This is more left-hand path. Now I want to also define that a little bit too. Left-hand path magic is not really to do with Satanism, like some people think. They think it's some evil form of magic or black magic. Left-hand path is really secular magic. So that's where it is seeing entities and archetypal energy, archetypal powers, not working with deity as such. That's what left-hand path magic or the left-hand path approach is really about. It's secular approach. And the fact that he's also mentioned here with subtitle Personal Power, this is more about empowerment, where you are not working on some kind of unity or some kind of partnership with a deity. This is all self-empowerment, which this is the area of approach and the type of magic and techniques that I have moved into now, that I'm interested in. So I wanted to talk about this today and what is in the book. There's a lot in this book. It's great. Now I'll talk about a bit of what is in here, because there's a lot in here. So there is a warning to the reader on the inside of the front page, as I mentioned. This is the warning to the reader that I talked about, mentioning that this is not blood magic. So there's 4 parts to the book. It's divided into 4 parts. He calls them book 1, 2, 3 and 4. So part of the contents of the first part is what Don Webb calls vampire theory and practice. So this is the background, all the background information, the whole approach to understand what this is about. So he's got the first few chapters. The second chapter is called the Vampyric explanation. The third chapter, very important, what is energy? Energy is such a foundational part of anyone who is working with magic. Anyone who wants to be a magic practitioner, the understanding of energy is foundational. And chapter 4, magic as a way of knowing, I really like that. And I also love the sense of humour that's in here too. Don Webb's got a rather droll sense of humour, and you know, you can just tell by his style of writing every now and then. I like that as well. This is an accessible book. It's you know, the way that Don Webb writes, you know, this is accessible and relatively easy to read and to get into, to understand what he's saying. I also like what this is an example of his humour. He calls it, chapter 5, the good, the bad and the necessary. You know, this is his sort of way of approaching things and phrasing things at times. But there's just so much in here. There's great ideas in here. Now, the second part of the book, this is something that I think will interest people the most. This is called the Vampyric initiation. This second part of the book is all about different approaches to magic. There's 9 different approaches in here. So he does this to introduce these different styles of magic and approaches so that people can make a comparison. For example, Thelema is in here. Runa, which is to do with a runic approach, top of magic. And Kepha, which is the Temple of Set approach. And there's 9 in here altogether. And it also includes the approach of Pascal Beverly Randolph. Pascal Beverly Randolph was, not everybody knows that name, but he was very important, one of the earliest practitioners who had a tantric approach to magic. And he influenced Crowley and people who started to experiment. It was very experimental for its time. And of course, the Thelema is the approach of Crowley, and the runic or runa approach is the magic approach of Stephen Flowers. So I love this second part of the book. So each of the chapters that talks about these 9 different approaches, each of the chapters contain these things. It contains a background on the magicians themselves and their ideas. There's an example of a rite, the rites to open the process for each one. These are more the initiatic rites. And he includes for example, this is a more contemporary approach. He includes life analysis questions to consider. So this is what I love about Don Webb. You know, he's doing things that are contemporary, but they're innovative. They're fresh. He's got a vampiric analysis of each of the different kinds. Perception exercises, very important for energy magic. Techniques to try. And then an initiatic rite for each of them. So, you know, this is just great. So that's part 2. Part 3 goes into what he calls advanced practices. And he includes vampiric ethics, which is really important. You know, we're talking about psychic energy here, and other types of energy as well. Whether it's the external energy that's all around us, or whether it's your own personal internal energy. He's got a chapter in here as well about religion and heathenry, which is really interesting. And he's also got a chapter on group work, but this is more for the solo practitioner. But he includes some group work information in here as well. And he's got a chapter here called The Great Doubt, The Great Death, and The Great Joy. And then he's got a general chapter on life and death as well. It's just a wonderful book. There aren't all that many illustrations in here. There's some small sort of drawings, but you don't really need them. Because he's just got so much to say in here that, you know, it's not only really a very interesting book, but it's a practical book, which I think people really want, especially in regard to magic. You need something that's practical. And then the part 4 is a vampiric miscellany. You've got FAQs here, question and answer type of thing. Recommended reading. He even includes Transylvanian superstitions in another chapter. And you've got a selected work of fiction as well. And then there's an index. But I just love this book. I really love it. I'm very impressed with Don Webb's writings anyway. You know, Don Webb is right up there for me now. But this book in particular, I think for people who are interested in energy magic, want to work more with energy magic, and especially, I think particularly if you want something contemporary, and if you want, you're interested in learning about the left-hand path, but really wanting to adopt that approach, if you're really interested in that approach. I know the only other form of contemporary magic that I can think about these days, or think of these days, would be chaos magic. You know, I think these are the only two that I can think of these days, but apart from the Don Webb's approach. But chaos magic is not quite, I don't know, this isn't too structured, but I like some structure, whereas chaos magic is very freestyle. I like a sense of structure. So this is why the left-hand path is better for me. And also I like the approach where Like for example, in the chapter on religion and heathenry, he includes gods and goddesses associated with the vampire archetype. And I just like the fact that he includes that, but these are more to do with the archetypal approach. But for people who do want to work with this from a deity perspective, he does include that. He does include it. He includes this in that religion and heathenry chapter. So for people, this is something that he does include things, I think, for people to try and to consider. For me, it's more secular, the left-hand path approach. But, it's really interesting. I think it's great that he still includes that for people who are interested in that. Okay, well, that's just about all I can really say about this book. I did mention there's an index at the back as well. Energy Magic of the Vampire by Don Webb. And I love the subtitle, Secret Techniques for Personal Power and Manifestation. I think this is a great book. I find it interesting, I find it different, it's innovative, it's inspiring. I think it's everything that is needed for contemporary magic now. I like something that's fresh and new. I'm not into rehashing old material. I think it's good to acknowledge those who have gone before. For example, the Golden Dawn is foundational. I think for people who are absolute beginners, I think it's a great foundation. I think I'm the sort of person who will I acknowledge that. But I think it's also good to move on when you're ready to move on as well. Trying new contemporary approaches that are original and unique. So Energy Magic of the Vampire by Don Webb. I recommend this book for the reasons that I mentioned, if you really want something new and fresh and contemporary. So I'll put some details below the video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.